There are some wounds they don't bleed, and they don't come from a beating or some screaming match that hurts your ears. No, they come from silence. Think back. Remember being 5 years old, running up all excited to show off a drawing you just made, but your parents don't even look. They're busy scrolling. You cry because you scraped your knee, but nobody asks if you're okay. They're too stressed about the bills that need to be hugged, to be heard, to be seen. All of it just hits a wall of deep, heavy silence. And when this happens over and over again, the kid starts learning a brutal lesson. Maybe I don't matter. Maybe my feelings are just an inconvenience. Psychology calls this the wound of the ignored child. From the outside, when they grow up, they look perfect, super independent, extremely understanding, and especially low maintenance. Never want to bother anyone. It's always "I'm fine, whatever you want." But you know what? Behind that heartbreakingly mature exterior is a bone-deep fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of becoming a burden. They'd rather just stay silent than speak up and watch someone walk away. Welcome back to DeepShift. Today, we're stripping away the layers of the invisible child's inner world to understand why a childhood starved of connection can silently shape how you love, how you live, and how you question your own damn worth as an adult. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere in this story, you'll find the answer to that empty feeling you've been carrying around for God knows how long. Part 1. Why indifference destroys you. A lot of people think, wait, no hitting, no screaming, they still pay for school and put food on the table, so what's the trauma? Are they just acting spoiled? Wrong. Totally wrong. Abuse. It leaves a trail. Bruises on the skin, screaming matches in the living room. People can see it, people can feel for you. But emotional neglect? It's invisible. No evidence, no scars. It's just a normal afternoon, a shake of the head, a glance that passes right through you like you don't even exist. And it's exactly that nothingness that's what kills a kid from the inside out. Biologically speaking, humans are hardwired to look for connection. It's pure survival. Psychologist John Bowlby called this attachment theory. A baby's cry isn't just saying, "Hey, I'm hungry." It's a biological signal scanning for safety. When that signal gets answered with a warm hug, the kid's nervous system goes, "Okay, this world is safe. I can trust." But what happens when that signal just drops into nothingness, over and over again? The amygdala, the brain's danger alarm, slams on the red alert. To a kid, the silence of a parent is just as terrifying as being left alone in a pitch-black forest full of wolves. Cortisol, the stress hormone, just keeps pumping into the bloodstream. The nervous system gets stuck in fight or flight. Your brain literally rewires itself, defaulting to the belief that the world is a dangerous place and you always have to keep your guard up. Even though there is no monster. The only monster right then is the indifference of an adult sitting less than 10 feet away. When those lonely afternoons repeat enough times, the nervous system starts to evolve just to survive, and adults look at that evolution and call it something pretty: personality. They praise you for being good, for being mature for your age. But truth is, that's not who you were born to be. Those are defense masks, forged out of the pain of being ignored. Part 2. The 4 defense masks. Which one are you wearing? To survive in a family where your voice carries zero weight, a kid is forced to pick one of these 4 strategies. Take a look in the mirror and see if one of these is you. Mask 1, the hyper-independent. It's 2 a.m. You're sitting in front of your computer screen, facing a massive crisis in your work or your life. Your phone is right there. Your contact list has hundreds of names who could actually help, but you don't text a single soul. It's not because you're arrogant. It's because deep down in your bones, you believe that asking means bothering, that your needs are a burden, that people will say no, or worse, they'll say yes but totally resent you for it. The hidden motto for this kind of person is, if I never expect anything or ask anyone for help, I'll never have to taste the sting of rejection. They'd rather pull an all-nighter, rather burn themselves out, rather suffer completely alone. To them, showing that you need someone, it feels incredibly dangerous. Because in the past, every single time they needed someone, nobody was standing there. Mask 2. The overachiever. The kid realizes a rule very early on. When I'm just being good, my parents treat me like air. But when I rank first in class, when I bring home that trophy or certificate, they actually stop for a second and smile. Just 1 second. But to that kid, it feels like a drop of cold water in the middle of a desert. They learn a lesson. Love isn't just given. Love is something you have to trade your achievements for. When they grow up, they become workaholics. They chase this extreme, toxic perfectionism. They collect degrees, promotions, houses, cars. They throw themselves into the grind like a moth to a flame. Not because they actually enjoy those things, but because they are trying to scream at the world, "Look at me! I exist! I matter!" But what's the tragedy? No level of success can ever fill that void inside, because that deep hole was created by a lack of connection, not a lack of trophies. Mask 3. The people pleaser. They never, ever know how to say no. Anyone asks for anything, they do it. They always take the hit. Hell, even when someone else screws up, they're the first ones to step up and say sorry. People on the outside look at them and say, "Oh, they're so sweet, such a nice person." But no, behind that niceness is a terrifying fear. They are scared to death of people being mad at them. They are constantly reading the room, checking facial expressions, adjusting their tone, bending their whole behavior just to fit the emotional vibe of the person across from them. This mask shows up when a kid believes the only way to keep someone around is to become completely invisible and melt into their needs. They exhaust themselves playing the weather app for everyone else's emotional storms while their own feelings are being choked out. Mask 4. The indifferent armor. This type is the exact opposite. They don't chase achievements and they don't suck up to anyone either. They just stand still. They avoid big goals, always choosing jobs way below their actual potential. People look at them and call them lazy or say they lack ambition. But inside that shell is a cold, hard conclusion forged from hundreds of moments of being ignored. Doesn't matter how hard I try, nobody's gonna look anyway, so why even bother? This indifference is actually a highly sophisticated piece of steel armor. No expectations, no disappointments. Keep your heart closed and you won't get hurt. They don't reach out, just so they never have to feel what it's like to stretch your hand into nothingness and have nobody reach back. But psychology doesn't just stop at the trauma. There's this incredibly fascinating truth that ignored kids usually don't even realize about themselves. No matter which mask you're wearing, you still possess a superpower that puts you miles ahead of everyone else around you. And what is that? The ability to read people. Because you had to learn how to survive in an environment starved of emotional cues way too early, your nervous system literally turned into a super-sensitive radar station. You know exactly when someone is hurting, even if they're smiling from ear to ear. You catch that split-second frown, a silence that lasts just one beat longer than usual, or a tiny shift in your boss's tone of voice. You're always the one who knows how to pick the most perfect, gentle words to calm someone down. You're the best listener in the room, the emotional rock for your friends whenever they hit a crisis. The mirror neuron system in your brain is running at max capacity, letting you feel other people's pain as if it were your own damn experience. But what's the price tag on this superpower? Total, utter soul exhaustion. You turn your radar all the way up to catch and hold the trauma of the whole world, but you switch off your own signal. When you fall apart, when you're hurting the most, you choose to suffer completely alone in the dark. You're terrified of bothering them. And this is the most heartbreaking paradox of all. The person who can understand others most deeply is often the person least understood by anyone. You hand out empathy as easily as breathing, but you have no clue how to receive it because to you, letting someone in still feels like a massive gamble. Part 3. Rewiring the brain, the journey to healing. So, what do we do now? Are we just stuck wearing these masks for the rest of our lives? Good news, hell no. Your brain is not a solid block of hardened concrete. Research from the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University has literally proven this thing called neuroplasticity. Those anxious mental ruts formed in your childhood, they can absolutely be erased and rewritten. Every single time you dare to act differently from your old defense habits, even just a tiny bit, you are weaving a brand new neural pathway with your own damn hands. Here are 3 practical rules to start your own healing revolution. Rule 1. Learn to parent yourself, reparenting. Back in the day, the mirror reflecting your emotions was shattered by your parents. When you cried, nobody said, "Hey, you're sad, right? I'm right here." Because of that, you never learned how to name and accept your own feelings. Now, you gotta do that job yourself. When an emotional storm hits, whether it's anger, insecurity, or self-doubt, don't brush it off. Stop cursing yourself out like, "Why am I so damn sensitive?" Just pause, hold space for it, and take its side. I'm hurting right now, and that makes total sense. My need to be cared for is valid. You have to be the first person to actually see yourself, instead of waiting around for someone else to look. Rule 2. Stop taking everything personally. Depersonalization. The brain of an ignored child constantly lives in the future. It's always running simulations of rejection just to brace itself for the impact. Pull your mind back to the present. Sent a text and your partner hasn't replied yet? Notice that physical restlessness in your body, and then tell yourself, "They haven't replied yet." That is an objective event. It's just data, not a proof that I'm worthless. Stop playing the movie in your head. Let things just happen naturally. Rule 3. Speak up about the smallest things. For someone who's been forced to be independent since they were 7 years old, opening your mouth to ask someone for a glass of water, it feels as terrifying as standing on the edge of a cliff. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you are being incredibly brave to face down an old fear. Start training with low-stakes stuff. Ask a coworker to grab a package for you, ask a family member to pass the TV remote, or say exactly what you want to eat for dinner. When you dare to speak up and get a positive response, your nervous system logs a completely new piece of data. Oh, speaking up is safe. My needs are respected. These tiny revolutions will slowly rebuild that self-esteem you lost a long time ago. This journey, it's not just about freeing yourself. It carries a much bigger, much more sacred mission: breaking the chain of generational trauma. If you step back and look at it through a scientific lens, your parents, the people who ignored you, they aren't monsters. Deep down, they were just abandoned kids themselves. They grew up in tough times, when putting food on the table was a daily war. Their nervous systems got frozen in survival mode. They provided for you materially with everything they knew, but they were completely helpless when it came to emotional connection. You just can't give away something you never received. Understanding this isn't about making excuses, and nobody's forcing you to just forgive and forget while the wound is still bleeding. Your pain is real, and it deserves to be respected. Looking at it scientifically is just so you can let go of the resentment, step out of the victim trap, and realize this ultimate power. This chain of misery might have dragged on for generations, but it stops with you. Just imagine a scene in the future. You, an adult who walked through the storm and healed themselves, are sitting in the living room. Your little kid comes home from school, runs up to you, and starts rambling about some silly, pointless story with no beginning or end. Right then, you are exhausted after a brutal day at work. Your phone is blowing up with work notifications, but you choose differently. You put the phone down. You turn your whole body toward your kid, drop down so you're at eye level. You look deep into their eyes, listen close, and smile. "Wow, that sounds so cool. Tell me more." In that exact moment, your eyes become the perfect mirror, telling that kid, "You exist, you matter, and your feelings are priceless." With that one tiny choice, you officially cut a link in the chain of trauma, protecting the next generation from the invisible wound you had to carry your whole life. If these words touched a hidden corner of your mind today, or made you feel just a little bit lighter, drop a comment below. Which mask do you see yourself in the most? Your story might be the exact emotional validation someone out there desperately needs to know they're not alone. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend, someone who might also be hiding a kid inside who has never been truly seen. Thank you for hanging out with me until the very end. I'm DeepShift. Take care, and I'll see you in the next journey into the human mind.